I was standing at my station, jotting down compressor readings, when the new plant manager strutted in like he was about to pitch investors. Designer sneakers, slim-fit khakis, that smug grin you see on startup founders right before their app crashes. 29 years old, barely older than my son, and already talking like he invented manufacturing. I've been here 21 years, no safety shutdowns, no OSHA hits. I could walk this plant blindfolded and still tell you if something was off by smell alone. But Travis didn't care about that. He picked up my laminated inspection checklist, edges worn smooth from 2 decades of use, and turned it over like it was a museum relic. "This thing looks like it's from the Nixon era," he said, loud enough for the whole crew to hear. "We're going fully digital, cloud dashboards, QR codes, Slack channels." Before I could respond, he tossed my checklist into the trash can. Didn't even set it down, just a quick flick of the wrist, like he was skipping a stone. A couple of guys laughed, the kind of fake, cautious laugh you give when you know who signs your reviews. I kept my face blank, but my jaw was tight. That checklist wasn't just a list. It was my process, my memory bank. It had saved us from more shutdowns than I could count. "From now on," Travis went on, pacing like he was on a TED stage, "we'll be running a digital workflow revolution. No more paper logs, no more out-of-date checklists. If it ain't on the cloud, it didn't happen." I glanced at the crew. A couple avoided my eyes. Others stared at the floor. Everyone knew what was really happening. This was about showing who was in charge. I didn't argue, not in front of an audience. You don't last 2 decades here by snapping at every hotshot manager who blows through. But something in me clicked right then. I'd outlasted bad bosses before. Lazy ones, arrogant ones, even one who thought safety rules were guidelines. But Travis felt different. He wasn't just reckless. He was reckless with no brakes. He kept going, talking about real-time analytics and collaborative problem-solving spaces. The words were shiny, but the reality was already obvious. Half the crew didn't own smartphones capable of running his apps. The Wi-Fi's cut out twice a shift, and nobody in maintenance checked Slack unless someone yelled at them in person. When he finally walked off, still talking into a wireless headset, I pulled my checklist out of the trash, brushed off a coffee stain someone had dripped on it, folded it once, slid it into my bag. I wasn't going to need it for inspections anymore, not officially, but I knew better than to throw away 21 years of knowing this place better than any dashboard ever would. Travis hadn't made it past the mezzanine when his voice blasted over the floor speakers. "Quick huddle at 6:30 tomorrow is canceled. We're optimizing. If it ain't broke, why waste time checking it?" I looked up at the catwalk where he stood like a tour guide. The crew glanced at me, then back at him. That 6:30 walkthrough was my ritual. Ears, nose, fingertips, gearbox whine, faint coolant sweet, hairline heat change on a motor face. He just killed it with a sentence. "We've got predictive analytics," he added, grinning. "Sensor-driven insights. The dashboard will alert us before anything even thinks about breaking." Welcome to the future. Nobody asked how he planned to get alerts with spotty Wi-Fi and a bunch of half-stuck QR codes. He told us to scan the new tags each start of shift, drop notes in "Esh Daily," and move on. "We'll centralize the conversation," he said. Translation: no timestamps, no signatures, no one on the hook. By 7, the old leather shift logbook was gone from its hook. In its place, a laminated sign, "Post updates in daily." The handshake emoji made me want to shut off the breaker to the sign itself. First day under the new plan, small stuff started slipping. The B-Bay forklift came in limping because someone left the battery on and the charger off. Needle flat, acid smell faint. I typed a quick line in, "Shutdown daily, B-Bay lift at low charge, topping up now," and watched it vanish in the scroll behind a gif of confetti from Travis celebrating paperless day 1. At 9, I bled the main compressor tank myself. The tank gauge read higher than it should have after a night idle, condensed moisture riding along. The old log would have had a signature in time. In Wanarf Daily, it became a comment buried under meme replies. "Moisture management, yay," from someone trying to be cute. No one signed anything. Right before lunch, the mezzanine exhaust fan sat silent. A line tech told me he thought the night shift killed it to save noise. I walked up, felt the dead air gather like a blanket, flipped the switch, and listened to the motor catch and rattle itself steady. I tried a post with a stamped photo, called it Exhaust Fan Restart, Mez, Zero Airflow Prior. No reaction. The thread moved on to a selfie Travis took with a roll of QR stickers. So, I started my own log. I pulled my phone from my pocket and created a new folder in my personal cloud. Title, Break Glass. Subfolders, Electrical, Hydraulics, Air, Housekeeping. For each entry, I added photos, short clips, pressure readings, and the exact time to the minute. I took a shot of the forklift battery meter, tagged B-Bay lift, noon, deep discharge. I recorded the hiss and spit of the drain valve on the tank, annotated the water output on a rag by weight in grams. Overkill? Maybe. But I'd learned you never wish you had less proof. Second day, Travis toured the floor like a host on a streaming show. Check the dashboard, team. Look at these green lights. He swiped a tablet that froze, then caught up, then froze again. Data's a little sticky in here, he joked. He still canceled 6:30. At 6:45, I did a quiet half walk anyway. Not the old route, just a loop. I stood near Station 10 and listened. The chain had a lazy slap on the return. Tiny, but real. I posted nothing in daily. In break glass, I logged chain return slap. Station 10, mild, ambient 72, no load. By midweek, the new accountability looked like this. A wall of unthreaded Yajam daily notes. Heads up, floor wet by B-Press, LOL who took the broom, and no one's name next to anything. The old system made you sign your initials. You felt your hand do it. That mattered. I ran into Luis by the pallet stretch wrapper. He's 30 years here, quiet as stone until he isn't. You see the fan last night? I asked. He kept his eyes on the wrap, thumb tapping the tension setting. Yeah. You post it? He shook his head once. No point. He wants emojis. We both looked at the wrapper motor, listened to its tight whir. Luis lowered his voice. I'm hearing little slips, tiny stuff. People skipping steps. Because there's no steps left to skip, I said. He didn't smile. You keeping your own notes? Always. He gave me a single nod. That was as loud as he got. By Friday, I could feel small slants in the routine. A pallet jack abandoned half across an aisle. A minor coolant drip wiped up with paper towels instead of logged and tightened. At lunch, 2 operators argued whether the compressor tank needed bleeding daily anymore because Travis didn't put it on the dashboard. Neither wanted to be the one to do a thing that didn't exist on his system. I didn't argue. I walked to the compressor, glanced at the sight glass, took the reading, and wrote it down in my break glass entry with the exact PSI and dew point. Then I snapped a photo of the gauge, tagged the time, and uploaded it to my folder. That hum hit me the second I stepped past Station 14, high-pitched, uneven, with a faint metallic chatter on the tail end. I froze. Every old-timer in the building knew that sound. It was the bracing starting to slip in the coolant pipe. Left unchecked, you'd get vibration, misalignment, and a full stoppage within days. I pulled my phone, opened Slack, and typed into the maintenance channel. Station 14, coolant line hum, inconsistent pitch, possible brace slip. Recommend check today. Polite, professional. Sent it at 7:18 a.m. By 9:30, no reply, not even an emoji. At 10:05, the hydraulic press on B-line groaned and stopped dead. I walked over and found the rookie operator staring at the control panel like it was written in Greek. Did you purge and reset before cycling? I asked. Not on the new list, he said, shrugging. Of course not. Travis's streamlined checklist had stripped that step because, in his words, machines don't need warm hugs. Now the press was jammed with a half-formed part, hydraulic pressure bleeding into the wrong channel. Kill power, I told him, and call maintenance. He pulled out his phone and started typing into daily like that was going to fix anything. I left him to it and went looking for Travis. Found him by the loading dock, wearing sunglasses indoors, narrating a forklift unload to his girlfriend, some kind of social media influencer. She was taking selfies with the truck in the background. Travis, I said. He didn't look at me. Hey Jack, 2 seconds. Babe, get this angle. The lighting is sick right now. Hydraulic press is down. Rookie skipped purge reset. Not my circus. He cut me off, still grinning for the phone. His girlfriend turned, smirked at me, and said, You're like Machine Dad or something. Always worrying about the old school stuff, huh? I stared at her for a beat. She had no idea what she was talking about, and Travis wasn't about to defend me. "Enjoy the tour," I said and walked. Back at my station, I opened my break glass folder and made 2 new entries. First, Station 14, coolant hum, inconsistent, amplitude 0.3 dB above baseline, 7:18 a.m., no response from maintenance. Attached a 15-second audio clip and a close-up of the pipe bracket. Second, hydraulic press B-line jam, purge reset omitted, caused pressure lock, 10:05 a.m. Photo of the control panel lights, timestamp visible, both filed under a fresh subfolder, pre-failure evidence. By noon, the coolant line hum was still there, a little sharper now. The press was offline, parts scattered across a pallet, waiting for someone to care. At lunch, Luis passed my table, glanced down at my sandwich and muttered, "You see Station 14? Logged it hours ago. Yeah, nobody's touched it." He walked on. That was the part that got me. Nobody even pretended to follow up anymore. Before Travis, you'd have maintenance over there inside 20 minutes, wrench in hand. Now, if it wasn't blinking red on a dashboard, it didn't exist. Around 3, I saw Travis again, this time leaning on a railing, talking to a vendor about future-proofing workflows. I considered mentioning the hum one more time, but he was too busy explaining how QR tags would gamify maintenance engagement. So I went back to work. Took another reading on the coolant line, slightly higher pitch, matching early brace migration. Uploaded it, labeled it progression. By shift change, the rookie still hadn't logged a real maintenance request for the press. I pulled the jam part, set it on the floor, and took one last photo for the day. Partly out of habit, partly because I had a feeling this one wasn't going away. When I left, the hum was still there. 2 days after the coolant hum and the press jam, my extension rang. Caller ID, HR. "Jack, can you pop into my office for a quick chat?" The voice was bright, rehearsed, early 20s, probably fresh out of college. I walked in and found her sitting behind a desk that still had the factory laminate smell. Nameplate read, Kelsey. People operations. "Travis came to me with some concerns," she began, folding her hands like she was delivering bad news to a neighbor's cat. "He feels you might be resistant to modernization." I kept my face blank. "Based on what?" "It's more about perception," she said quickly. "Some of the team feels your attitude toward the new digital tools is affecting morale. No incidents, no safety violations, no missed work." Her eyes flicked down to a screen. "Nothing formal, but perception matters. We'd like to see you show more initiative in embracing our workflow upgrades." I leaned back. "So the message is, don't fix the process. Fix how I look at the broken process." She gave a tight smile. "We just want everyone aligned." She slid a single-page form across the desk. Coaching agreement, digital engagement. It was corporate theater. I'd seen the script 100 times. No matter what I said, the outcome was the same. A signed paper to prove the conversation happened. I signed it without comment, dated it, slid it back. Then I stood. "Anything else?" "That's it. We appreciate your flexibility," she said, with that tone people use when they think they've handled you. Back at my station, I pulled out my phone. Break glass folder, new entry. HR intervention, entry 47. Subnotes, no formal incidents, perception only, signed coaching form, time, date, location. If they wanted perception, I'd give them precision. From then on, I doubled down. Every ignored alert got logged. Every skipped inspection got its own entry. By the end of the week, my counter ticked past 40 entries, each with photos, readings, timestamps, and, where applicable, Slack screenshots. Thursday morning, I caught the mezzanine exhaust fan off again. Break glass entry, fan idle, 8:12 a.m., ambient 82 degrees, no airflow. Friday, Luis mentioned the B-Bay forklift still sagging on half charge. Break glass, lift battery at 24%, charger unplugged overnight. 9:36 a.m. Saturday, the main compressor's condensate drain hissed longer than spec. Moisture buildup again. Break glass. Drain cycle 42 seconds, above 28-second baseline. I didn't blast these in Slack. No emoji summaries, no heads up buried under GIFs. Just cold evidence locked where no one could edit or delete it. That afternoon, Travis walked past me in the aisle, flanked by 2 supervisors. I caught him side-eyeing me, smirk just visible. Like he'd scored a point by sending me to HR. I let him pass. My time would come. By shift's end, my break glass folder had more than a month's worth of non-incidents stacked in perfect order. Every ignored sound, smell, vibration, every skipped basic step, every modernization that traded reliability for optics. They wanted alignment? Fine. My alignment was with the truth, and I was making damn sure it was bulletproof. Friday, 6:52 a.m., the compressor room was quiet except for the usual low thrum until I heard it. Click, pause, click, click. Too slow, then too fast. I stepped closer to the main compressor's relay board. The pattern was wrong, out of sync by just enough to scream trouble to anyone paying attention. If you know machines, you know when their heartbeat stumbles. This was the sound of a cascade failure starting to write its own ticket. I pulled my phone and started recording. 17 seconds of relay chatter, each uneven tick marked in my head. Then I opened my laptop at the workbench and wrote it up. Subject: immediate shutdown recommendation, main compressor body. Relay board cycling irregularly, possible control fault. Risk of cascade failure if left running. Recommend full shutdown and inspection before next load cycle. I CC'd safety, regional maintenance, and Travis. Attach the audio clip, current PSI readings, and a side-by-side chart from last month showing normal relay timing. Timestamp 7:03 a.m. The reply came 6 minutes later. One line from Travis. We're not hitting pause because someone's nervous. I stared at it for a second, then read it again. No request for details, no follow-up questions. Just a blanket dismissal. I didn't reply. I've learned you don't argue with someone who's proud they're not listening. Instead, I opened the break glass archive and pulled every file tied to the main compressor for the last 3 months. Tank bleed logs, dew point readings, pressure fluctuations. I printed them one by one, the stack growing warm under my palm, added the relay audio, my shutdown recommendation, and his exact reply. I slid it all into a red file folder. In black marker, I wrote, when, not if. Back on the floor, I passed the compressor again. The clicks were louder now, and the pitch dipped on the third in every cycle. Luis walked by and caught my eye. You hear that? I asked. He paused, listened for maybe 3 seconds, and his brow furrowed. Yeah, that's bad. Already sent it up, I said. Travis says, keep running. Luis shook his head and walked off. That's what we do here now. Walk off. At 10, I crossed paths with Travis by the vending machines. He was talking into his headset, laughing like he was closing a deal. I waited until he hung up. You read my compressor note? I asked. Jack, relax. We've got predictive analytics for a reason. If it's serious, the system will flag it. It already did, I said. Me. He smirked, popped open a can of seltzer, and walked away. By noon, the relay pattern was almost constant, the gap between clicks shrinking. I stood in the doorway to the compressor room for a long minute, just listening. Every sound I logged felt like a mile marker on a road we couldn't turn off. I didn't touch the machine, didn't even adjust the panel cover. I just wrote another break glass entry. Main compressor relay board. Escalation of irregular cycle, gap reduction from 1.7s to 1.2s, audible drop in pitch on third tick, no shutdown authorized. When the shift ended, I packed the red folder into my bag. It wasn't for me anymore. It was for the day somebody asked, did anyone see this coming? I already had the answer printed in 12-point font, neat and undeniable, and now all there was left to do was wait. Monday, 10:17 a.m. The sound hit first, a piercing teeth-on-metal screech that cut through the floor noise. Then came the conveyor jam alarms, one after another, like dominoes tipping in every direction. Overhead, lights strobed as the emergency shutdowns kicked in. I was halfway down the main aisle when the big one hit, the main compressor's safety siren. I turned toward the gauge panel, 2,200-gallon pressure tank needle climbing, edging toward the red. Operators scattered. One guy dropped a box of bearings. They rolled under a pallet rack like marbles. Forklift brakes squealed somewhere behind me. The air had that sharp tang of overheated metal. The floor supervisor, freshly promoted for his positive vibes, came sprinting out of the break room, eyes wide. Somebody reset it! Reset it now! He didn't even look at the gauges. You touch that reset and you're making it worse, I said, loud enough to carry. He froze, still panting, looking from me to the flashing panel. It's not venting. No kidding, I said, because it's not supposed to be running. He ran in a small circle like he might find the solution hiding behind a column. The main compressor shuddered, the sound like an animal choking. A release valve finally blew, venting with a deep, hollow roar. Steam and vapor rushed across the bay, curling under the high lights. In the chaos, nobody noticed me standing still. Clipboard in one hand, the red "when, not if" folder in the other. Luis jogged up from the south line, grease smudged on his face. You knew this was coming? Documented it Friday, I said. Relay board, out of sync. He just stared at me for a beat, then at the tank, then back at me. Jesus. I didn't move. There was nothing to fix now. It was all damage control from here. Maintenance techs were yelling over each other, trying to trace the cascade. Somebody tripped a breaker bank, killing half the mezzanine lights. Travis appeared near the control room door, phone in hand, scanning the wreck like he was filming a disaster documentary. We need to keep production moving, he shouted to no one in particular. Production's dead, I said flatly. You've got a full systems choke. He looked like he wanted to argue, but another alarm cut him off, a high-pitched wail from the coolant system, echoing up the wall. The emergency shutdown sequence finally reached its end. The big bay went eerily quiet except for the hiss of venting lines and the occasional metallic ping of cooling steel. Operators stood in clusters, waiting for instructions that weren't coming. Positive Vibes supervisor still had his hands on his hips like he'd just finished a workout. We can reset, right? Just cycle it back up. You cycle it back up, I said, and you'll blow something you can't replace before next quarter. Nobody moved. Even Travis stayed near the doorway, face tight now, the phone hanging at his side. I took a slow breath, tucked the clipboard under my arm, and slid the red folder back into my bag. I'd carried it in every day since Friday. The plan was always the same: keep it close, let the evidence stack up until it was undeniable. Luis stepped closer, voice low. You going to hand that in? Not to him, I said, nodding toward Travis. He already got his chance. We both watched as two maintenance leads started tracing lines with their fingers, speaking in clipped, angry bursts. Somewhere behind us, the forklift horn blared twice, someone yelling for more spill pads. Travis finally turned and left the floor without saying a word. That told me more than anything. I stayed put until the hiss from the vented tank faded. Then I walked toward the compressor room, not to touch a thing, just to take one last reading for the log. Timestamp, 10:44 a.m. Pressure, stabilized below threshold. Damage, already done. The CEO's arrival didn't make a sound at first, just a change in the air, like everyone straightened up at once. Then I saw him step through the north door, crisp suit, polished shoes, no hard hat. Hadn't set foot on the floor in years. He walked slow, scanning the wreckage, shut down conveyors, maintenance scattered across the bay, hoses still dripping from the compressor vent. Travis trailed behind him, stiff-backed, like a kid caught in the principal's office. Walk me through the morning's safety procedures, the CEO said. His voice carried, flat and cold. Travis cleared his throat. Well, our predictive systems didn't indicate any. The CEO kept walking toward the break room. Travis had to jog a step to keep up. I followed at a distance, clipboard under my arm. He stopped at the trash can by the far wall, reached in without flinching, and pulled out something wrapped in a coffee-stained napkin, my old laminated checklist, the one Travis had tossed weeks ago. The CEO held it up, turned to Travis. Did it work? Travis didn't answer. He glanced at me, then back to the CEO. That's what I thought, the CEO said. He wiped the edge of the clipboard on his sleeve, then walked over and handed it to me. Finish your report. I took it without a word. The plastic felt heavier than it used to, like the weight of the last 21 years was sitting in my hand. The CEO turned to the supervisors clustered nearby. Production is halted until I have a full incident report. I want every maintenance log from the last 90 days on my desk by end of week. One of them started to explain about the new Slack thread. The CEO cut him off. Paper, signatures, dates. You remember how to do that? Yes, sir, the supervisor said quickly. Travis was still standing there, hands in his pockets, eyes on the floor. The CEO didn't even look at him again. I slid the red "when, not if" folder from my bag, and held it at my side. "You'll want this too," I said. The CEO took it, flipped it open, scanned the first page. His jaw tightened. "We'll talk," he said. Then he walked off toward the control room, folder in hand. Travis finally spoke, voice low. "You didn't have to." "Yeah," I said, cutting him off. "I did." He didn't follow me when I went back to my station. I sat down, opened my own clipboard, and started writing. Not for him, not even for me, for the record, the one that doesn't lie, doesn't forget, and doesn't get deleted when it's inconvenient. Somewhere in the bay, I heard the CEO's voice again, sharper now, asking pointed questions. This time, people were answering fast. 2 hours later, the CEO found me in a side hallway most people forgot existed. The office door had dust on the frame. Inside, it smelled faintly of old paper and machine oil. He shut the door and set my red folder on the desk between us. "I went through every page," he said, "every photo, every timestamp. I've been in this business 35 years, Jack. I've never seen documentation this clean from a floor lead." I stayed quiet. "You could have blown this up weeks ago," he went on. "Publicly, called me, called the board. Instead, you kept your head down and built an airtight case. That matters." I met his eyes. "And I want you reporting directly to me," he said. "Full oversight of all process audits, plant-wide. Any plant in the region if you want it. You'll have authority to halt operations without middle management interference." I let the words sit for a second. "What about Travis?" The CEO leaned back. "Not fired, yet. But as of today, he's stripped of operational authority. He'll answer to you on anything process-related." I nodded once. "Then I have 2 conditions." His eyebrows lifted. "Go on." "First, a proper desk. Not a corner in the break room. Second, a label printer that actually works." A grin twitched at the edge of his mouth. "Done? Then I accept." He stood, extended his hand. I shook it, short, firm, no smiles. "One more thing," he said as I turned for the door. "This report, I'm going to use it as a training example. New managers are going to learn what happens when they ignore the people who know the floor." "That's fine," I said. "Just make sure they also learn what happens when someone listens too late." He gave a single nod. "Fair enough." I walked out with my clipboard under my arm, the red folder staying in his hands now. The air on the main floor still smelled faintly scorched, but the alarms were quiet. People were working again, slowly, carefully, like they didn't quite trust the machines yet. Travis was at a workstation near the mezzanine stairs, staring at a screen. He saw me coming and looked away. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I was carrying something heavy. I had what I needed: authority, backing, and the same laminated checklist he'd thrown out. And I planned on using all of it. First morning in my new glass wall office, I got in before 6. The sun hadn't cleared the warehouse roof yet, but from my desk, I could see the whole production floor. For the first time in years, my clipboard had a permanent place, right next to a stack of fresh laminated checklists, color-coded and indexed. At 6:15, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Travis appeared in the doorway, paper notebook in hand, looking like someone about to meet his probation officer. "Morning," I said, without looking up from the week's inspection route. "Morning," he muttered, stepping inside. "Desk's over there," I said, nodding to the small table against the wall. 90 days. You shadow me, you write down what I tell you, and you don't change a thing without my say-so." He sat, flipped the notebook open. "Got it. Good. Let's go." We started on the West Line, where the new hire crew was warming up the hydraulic press. I asked the operator to walk us through their startup procedure. When he got to the purge reset step, the same one Travis had stripped from his streamlined checklist, I watched Travis write it down, word for word. By 8:30, we'd covered 3 stations. The crew was starting to notice. "Jack," Luis called from across the bay, "you think the compressor's holding steady now?" "Readings are clean this morning," I said, "but we're still logging twice a day." Luis nodded and went back to work, shooting Travis a quick look like he was checking to see if he was actually paying attention. At Station 14, the coolant pipe hummed in its usual rhythm, steady this time. I pointed at the bracing mounts. "Tell me why we check those by hand, even with sensors," I said. Travis hesitated, then gave a textbook answer about early detection and redundant verification. "Write it down," I said. He did, and I didn't miss the way his jaw tightened. By lunch, we'd covered 2/3 of the floor. I didn't bother with small talk, and he didn't try. Everything was by the book, every answer timed to the work being done. At one point, a junior operator came over with a maintenance question about pressure fluctuation on the south compressor. She looked at me first, but I waved her toward Travis. He cleared his throat, checked the gauges, and actually gave her the right answer, though he still glanced at me for confirmation. I just nodded. The change in the air was small but noticeable. People weren't avoiding eye contact anymore. They were asking real questions, and they were getting answers that matched the work, not the slide deck. Back in the office at the end of the shift, I stacked my checklists and leaned back in my chair. Travis was still writing. "You've got another 89 days, I said. By the end of it, you'll know this floor the way it actually works, not the way it looks on a dashboard." He closed the notebook, stared at the cover. "Understood." I picked up my clipboard, ran my thumb along the edge. "Every time you write down something you used to mock, remember? Machines don't care about trends. They care about being kept alive." He nodded once, got up, and left without another word. Through the glass, I watched him walk across the floor, slower than usual, glancing at the equipment like he was finally seeing it for the first time. The training hall was full, rows of folding chairs, every shift represented, supervisors in the back with crossed arms. The CEO stood at the front, my clipboard in his hands. "This," he said, holding it up, "ran this plant for 7,670 days without a single shutdown." The room was dead quiet. He looked straight at the new hires in the front row. "It's not fancy, it's not an app, but it's complete, it's accurate, and it kept every one of you safe. Every single day it was in use." I stayed in the back, leaning against the wall. "This clipboard," he went on, "belongs to Jack Reynolds, Operations Integrity Lead. 21 years without OSHA hits, without safety shutdowns, without losing a shift to preventable failure." He walked to the far wall, where a black cloth covered something mounted at eye level, pulled it off. The plaque was bronze, bold letters etched deep. "The Jack Reynolds Protocol. Donated by Jack Reynolds, Operations Integrity Lead, retired only in theory." The crew started clapping. A few whistles cut through the noise. The CEO set the clipboard into a glass display case beneath the plaque, locked it, and stepped back. "From today forward, this isn't just a tool, it's a standard. Follow it, and you'll keep the lights on. Ignore it and, well, you've all seen what happens." He didn't have to look at Travis. No one did. The applause faded into a low hum of conversation. People started drifting forward to see the plaque up close. Some of the old-timers patted my shoulder as they passed. I stayed where I was, arms folded, watching. Not for applause, not for payback, just to see it, set in bronze where no one could throw it in the trash again.